Everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards here, and today I'm profiling the 1983 Topps football set. This was a 396 card set, and I'm picking the 18 key cards to look at today from that year that I selected. And this was the year that the Washington Redskins were looking to defend their Super Bowl championship from 1982. They finished the year 14-2. Scored a league-high 541 points. John Riggins was a first-team All-Pro that year, had 24 rushing touchdowns. And Riggins really didn't hit his big seasons till he was 34 and 35 years old, around this time, 1983, 1984. And again, he scored an all-time record for that time, 24 rushing touchdowns. It's since been broken. And when he finished his career in 1985, he had over 11,000 rushing yards, top 10. And he had 104 rushing touchdowns, which was second only to Jim Brown in NFL history when he retired. He was kind of a late bloomer. He started out with the Jets. He had some good years with them, but really took off once he went to the Redskins. And that year, the Redskins played the Oakland Raiders in the Super Bowl. This is Marcus Allen's rookie card. The Raiders were heavy underdogs in that Super Bowl. They ended up dismantling the Washington Redskins 38-9. Marcus Allen was the MVP of the game. This is, again, his rookie card. He was the 1982 Rookie of the Year. He was 1985 MVP. He rushed for over 1,700 yards in 1985 and had over 550 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns. Slowed down some in the late 80s, fell out of favor with the owner Al Davis. Bo Jackson came in, took some of his touches away. And then Eric Dickerson went to the Redskins as well later in his career. Marcus Allen went to the Kansas City Chiefs. Scored 49 more touchdowns with the Chiefs. Was more used as kind of a short yardage type running back. When he retired, he had 145 rushing and receiving touchdowns. That is still 6th all-time in the NFL today. So he's still in the top 6 in rushing and receiving touchdowns as of today. Very, very good running back. So let's look at some of the other cards from the set. This is Jim McMahon's rookie. He was not a Hall of Famer, but he was a very important player in the NFL at that time. He was the quarterback of the 1985 Bears, which was maybe the greatest team in NFL history. Known more for their defense, but he had a big persona. He was the quarterback of the team, and I think he was a pretty important player for the time. So I did include him in my set. What I find interesting is that he was kind of a prima donna type player. He'd wear his headbands on the sideline. In one game, he had one that had Adidas on it. He was fined $5,000 by Pete Rozelle, who was the commissioner of the NFL at the time. So what does McMahon do? The next week he comes out, wears a bandana, and he put Rozelle on it instead of Adidas. Pete Rozelle got a big laugh out of it, but he still fined him the $5,000. McMahon didn't really have a lot of success as a quarterback. He only had 100 touchdowns in his career, 90 interceptions. But I think he was an important player in this era, so I did decide to put him in this set. Next to him is Mike Singletary, great middle linebacker, carrying on the tradition from Dick Butkus that was later taken over by Brian Urlacher. This is his rookie card. Sweetness Walter Payton, the year before he broke the NFL rushing record. Tony Dorsett, 12-4 Cowboys that year. This was probably their last great season before the 90s Super Bowl run. They ended up losing in the first round to the LA Rams, but they did have a good regular season that year. Here's Randy White, defensive tackle. Started his career as a middle linebacker. The Cowboys drafted him over Walter Payton in 1975. They wanted Payton, but they wanted White too. Worked out okay for the Cowboys, though. They ended up winning a Super Bowl with Randy White and Tony Dorsett. There's James Lofton. Later on found Super Bowl success with the Bills. Even though they didn't win the Super Bowls, he got there. This is Kenny Stabler's last card. Here he is with the New Orleans Saints, looking out of place. Second year Lawrence Taylor card. Right next to him is Ronnie Lott. Joe Montana. There's a former receiving yards leader, Art Monk, all-time receiving yards leader. Since been broken many times over. John Riggins. John Marcus Allen. Terry Bradshaw. This is his last playing days card. He did have a card in 1984, but he did not play in that season. In 83, only played one game. Had, I believe, it was shoulder or arm issues at that time. Steelers still made the playoffs that year with Mark Malone at quarterback, finishing 10-6. They're beaten by the Raiders in the first round of the playoffs. Even though they never went back to a Super Bowl until the 90s, they had some pretty decent teams in the late 80s without Bradshaw. But their great nucleus of the 70s teams was broken up pretty much around this time. Next name is Franco Harris, towards the end of his career. Finished his career with the Seattle Seahawks. Hall of Fame inside linebacker Jack Lambert. And up to Dan Marino coming into the league, which would have been in 1983, even though he didn't have a card. Dan Fouts was probably the most prolific yardage passer to that point. He took the mantle from Sonny Jurgensen, who put up some big numbers as well. And finishing up with Steve Largent. Now this is the second year that Topps was allowed to put the logos on the helmets. They started in 82. They hadn't had logos on the helmets since 1969 due to the NFL trademark issues. And just one final look at this great set. Appreciate everybody watching, and you have a great night.